We basically want to talk to you all today about some developments pertaining to the Kinley Lane fire that occurred on Saturday morning, this previous Saturday morning. I'm going to start off with Deputy Chief Sammy Jones, followed by Battalion Chief Phil Boucher, who's the on-scene commander, and then we're going to wrap it up with the Chief Fire Investigator, Paul Wilkerson. We ask that you please hold all questions until the end, and we'll try to make sure we get to all of those. Thank you all. Deputy Chief Jones.
Good afternoon. On Saturday, July the 27th, 2019, at approximately 5:46 a.m., Charlotte Fire Department received multiple 911 calls for a structure fire on the Archdale Road. Upon arrival, fire crews had heavy smoke in the Archdale Road area, but were unable to find or locate the fire at this time. Fire crews proceeded to adjacent neighborhood to find a fully engulfed structure, fire at the 6100 block of Kinley Lane. Upon arrival, the house was fully engulfed with fire and experienced a full structure collapse. Due to the structure collapse, firefighters were unable to make a safe entry into the home and were forced to extinguish the fire from a safe area of the structure. 23 firefighters worked to extinguish the fire within 35 minutes. Chief O'Shea.
Any questions that we have regarding the operations that we would do either at this incident or any other type of fire department incident, our typical response?
So how many people actually did end up going inside to investigate?
To investigate, for purpose of investigation, I'm going to defer to the Fire Investigation Task Force. As far as searching for victims, what typically happens in most house fires, firefighters will arrive on scene. We conduct a risk analysis. We look at the property, we look at the house, we're going to make a decision if the house is tenable, if someone can be alive inside that house, if there's the possibility, firefighters are going to go in and they're going to conduct a search. They're going to try and find someone who's in the fire. In this case, we were faced with a house that was destroyed by fire, and from a risk analysis standpoint, it was not safe to have firefighters enter the structure until well after the fire was out.
So then after the fire's out, what happens?
After the fire is out, as safely as we can, we're going to, after the fire is out, as safely as we can, we're going to search the structure for any victims. We're going to do so within the confines of the structural stability. In this case, the structure was incredibly compromised.
And so basically what you're saying right now is that things were not necessarily, you could not necessarily go in for the safety of your firefighters.
Correct. Everything we're doing is a risk analysis. It was not safe to put another firefighter, it was not safe to have a firefighter go in there to look for a victim in what would be an untenable environment.
After the fire was put out, CFD tweeted out that there were no victims inside. How are you also certain to where you were putting out that information?
I'm sorry, how?
How are you also certain that nobody was inside that you were putting out that?
I'm going to defer to the Public Information Office. I'm not familiar with that tweet.
One thing I want to add that wasn't mentioned early on, this house was under construction. At the time, we had no indication that no one was living there. I believe it was down to the bare walls. If one of the investigators could confirm that. So at the time of the fire, it was fully involved upon our arrival, but there was no indication that there was any life. It appeared to be under renovations at that time.
Or I guess regardless of the tweet, how did you all become certain enough to leave the property? Why were you also certain that there was nobody inside?
That there were no victims inside. We're going to search every structure to the capability that we can. We were faced with a structure in this case that was under renovation. We have no idea how compromised the structure was prior to the fire. The fire is going to affect the structural integrity of the building, and then coupled with the fact that there was basically not much of the structure left. The majority of it would be, you could say, was in the basement. So there's nothing safe at that point.
At that time, let me let our Chief Fire Investigation speak to you as far as the investigation standpoint. I don't want to get out front of CMPD, so anything as far as the body or that discovery, until I can confirm that that investigation is concluded, we don't want to speak to that, but I will have Chief Paul Wilkerson speak on behalf of with the Charlotte Fire Investigation Task Force. Yes.
Good afternoon. I think most of y'all are familiar with our fire investigation unit, and it's a multi-agency unit from Charlotte Fire, Charlotte Police, ATF, and SBI. In this case, our investigators responded to the scene. We respond to all structure fires in the city to determine origin and cause. It is a factual forensic investigation. In this case, this was not a typical house fire that we see in the city of Charlotte, and you guys who film footage of it know this. In this case, due to the extreme loss of structure components and stability and stuff, our investigators had really no forensic evidence to sift through or look through. We photo documented the scene, collected the information from the owners. The property was recently sold to a company. They went in, cleaned it out, had stripped it down to the bare walls and to the bare studs, and had plans for an architect to come in and redesign and use it for offices for their demolition company. So basically, you had an unsecured property and a fire load of the open structure. The investigation, like I say, we photo documented it as best we could, collected the information on the scene, and forensically, we could not prove without a doubt or through factual forensics of what occurred. So the case is undetermined and is open active.
What would you say is the reason that the insurance adjuster was able to find the remains, but your investigators weren't? Just looking back.
Well, just as Chief O'Shea said, my investigators are just like, we come under the same auspices as the firefighters. If the firefighters are not going to be in the structure, why would I risk a fire investigator being in the structure also? So we have to play under those same rules.
Do you know how the remains were found today? Were they buried? I mean, do you have any indication?
You would have to, that would come through CMPD.
On Saturday, did anyone go inside the house?
I was not even in the state on Saturday. I can't answer that question as far as.
So the property was under renovation, basically stripped down to the studs. No one was living there at the time. And this might be speculation to say this, but it's kind of worth asking anyways. There's reason to believe someone was potentially squatting or just kind of living in there in that type of situation?
That would be something that we would have to talk with the CMPD arson detectives who are working with CMPD homicide. You know, we'll follow up with them on that, what's going on now.
If this insurance adjuster would not have found this body would have never been found, or would it have?
I can't speak to that. I don't know.
So did the adjuster go somewhere that y'all did not go? Was the person found, the body found
Okay.
away from the house?
We were notified this morning by CMPD. My unit responded to assist them. They interviewed that adjuster. I don't have any of that information. That would have to come through somebody with CMPD who actually spoke to him as to his actions.
Are there any lessons to be learned in this case, or is this the kind of thing where we can, you can be changing investigative tactics when dealing with structure fires like this?
All the fires in the city of Charlotte we do an internal critique of. In this one, we'll critique what happened on the operation side as well as the investigation side, and look where we can make improvements. If there was anything that was a downfall, we can address it through that. But again,
Is there anything to suggest that foul play was involved in this incident?
from the fire side, Glenn, I can't speak to that. There's not enough. There was the investigator on the scene made the determination there was not enough physical evidence to obtain any type of origin and cause of how the fire where it started.
So given that if there was some foul play and given the lack of evidence, whoever's responsible may be getting away with it?
Well, you'd have to talk to somebody with homicide. You've been around long enough to know that they could address that. They had the resources in place and stuff, so.
To your knowledge, when was the last time this home was lived in?
To my knowledge, I would assume sometime in July when the property was sold to the company that now owns it.
So would it be accurate to say that like firefighters and fire investigators, if they have no reason to think that anyone's inside and the fire's all put out, and they kind of wrap up, they won't go inside if it looks unsafe?
Well, again, I think Chief Bechet or Chief Jones could allude to that. The fire investigations is a continuation of the fire operations in the fire department. And if the battalion chief or incident commander says the structure is unsafe or untenable, then we're just part of that group too. So
So the bottom line is it was unsafe, and that's why you didn't go in the rubble and look around.
I would assume that, I was not on the scene, but I would assume that would be the best operations.
Yeah.
Operations would have made that call as to whether the structure was safe or not the investigators.
Yeah, majority of the structural members were damaged by fire. The interior, the exterior was all heavily damaged by fire. That's not something where, as an incident commander, we want to put firefighters in there. There's no reason to injure a firefighter in a case like that when there's a low probability of there being a victim on the inside.
Would they have known then that there was nobody living in the house or anybody occupying it?
We had no reason to believe that there was anyone occupying the structure, considering the renovation that was going on.
And during the investigation, the investigator spoke with the owner, and the owner, all the folks with the owner and his employees were all accounted for. So that was another thing, we accounted for those people.
Can you say where in that house the body would have been found, within the living room area, bedroom? I mean, just a general idea where it might have been found. And would that have made it more difficult to find, I guess?
Yeah,
Well, at this time, let us just wait for the investigation to complete itself with CMPD. Any new developments, we will make sure we get that to you all via press release. And at this time, I just think we want to let these chiefs and investigators get back to work so we can try to get some closure to this
How about some names
investigation.
and spellings?
Absolutely.
Paul Wilkinson, Wilkinson, Chief Fire Investigator.
Phil Bochet, common spelling. Phil Bochet, Boschhe, and I'm a battalion chief.
And Phil, I'd asked Paul, but he had kind of pointed to you.
Sure.
because He didn't know. So just to clarify, no firefighters or fire investigators went inside the house on Saturday?
We went in the house as far as we could, considering the condition of the structure, and basically, that'd be a safe way to put it. We went as far into the structure as we were comfortable from a risk analysis standpoint, considering the condition of the structure.
And was that before or after the fire had been extinguished?
That would be after the fire was extinguished, yes.
In terms of feet, or how far into the house would you say that was? Just
I-
ballpark?
I do not know. It's, to clarify one point, you were asking bedroom. The house was under renovation.
Chief
Sorry
Jones?
to be clear, Walt was engulfed, no firefighters went inside.
Correct.
It was fully involved.
Fully involved.
Fully involved, we do not enter a structure. Deputy Chief of Operations, Sammy Jones.